42 years after saying "Let there be zombies" and giving birth to perhaps the most prolifically used villain archetype in modern horror cinema, George Romero continues his enduring Dead series with a new entry, Survival of the Dead. I recently had the great privilege of catching up with the man himself. In 1968, Night of the Living Dead had its premiere. 42 years later, here you are premiering a new zombie film.
Yeah, ain't it weird?
It's actually quite extraordinary. Can you offer us any recollections of that night?
There was a premiere in a four-wall theater, which we went to sort of reluctantly and looked forward to the beers afterwards. And then the first thing we did on the actual opening night, which was the next Friday or something, Carl Hardman, the guy that plays Harry Cooper, was one of the producers. We all hopped in one of his Continentals and went to a drive-in to see it. Oh. And that was when we knew we had made a movie, man. It's at the drive-in, look at this. Years later, the midnight screenings, I went to a couple of those at the Elgin in New York, and that was really fun when people, they would come in wardrobe and recite the dialogue and everything. I said, oh man, what have we done here? It's like incredible.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
We all remember Bill Hinsman as being the very first flesh-eating zombie in cinematic history.
Yeah.
Quickly, how has the zombie evolved from Night of the Living Dead through to Survival of the Dead?
I was going along the line of gradually increasing the awareness not in my mind, it was never intelligence, it was more just memory and remembered behavior.
Okay.
And imitative. And to me, I got to the point where that presents a real potential threat. And you see signs of, they're getting smarter. Go more with this idea of what are we going to do? Are we going to just wipe them all out? We almost can't. There aren't enough bullets.
And also, evolving them makes that decision harder and more emotional for the humans.
Exactly. Night of the Living Dead had a much sort of straighter face on it. So I think that I'm loose enough now that I can do what I always wanted to do, which I grew up on EC comic books, so humor is an important component, always was an important component in those. In this film, there's some real Chuck Jones kind of Looney Tune moments in it. Another similarity, which is subtle and sort of only known to me, is that when we were making Night, I didn't know how far to go. Now in this film, am I going too far with the silliness, with the humor? And then I decided to give this sort of quasi-Western flavor and model it after an old sort of William Wyler film called The Big Country, and really make it look like that. And is that going too far? And so I think that a different mindset going into these films, I feel that I can control it more, I can choreograph it better, not be inefficient about the use of time. I know exactly what I want. I know where it's going to cut. I know exactly where it goes in the jigsaw puzzle.
Right. You've not lost your propensity for creative kills. I mean, I would say you up the ante in Survival of the Dead. Do you feel pressure to push the envelope with each new entry?
It's not really pressure. It's mandatory first. It's become mandatory because I sort of have two groups of fans that like the sort of socio-political undertones in the films, and then there's a whole group of fans that are just there for the gore. And so I'm never sort of without a drawer full of silly ideas.
Always on the mind.
Yeah.
I would say more so than any entry in the series since Night of the Living Dead, Survival examines very thoroughly family dysfunction. Mm-hmm. And it seems like that's a theme you keep coming back to time and again.
Any sort of dysfunction, I'm happy to go there. Because that's what I think all the films, all 6 of them, have been about. They're about the people. And they're about the people's inability to deal with the problem or deal with it stupidly or not deal with it. And to me, that's the interest that I have in it. And even if there's even a deeper sub-theme, like consumerism or whatever it happens to be, I've always had people stories too, and little people conflicts and personal conflicts, all the way back to the first film. And to me, that's the interesting part. I mean, that's what the stories are about. The zombies could almost be any disaster. It could be a hurricane, But the zombies are convenient. They're more fun for me than a hurricane would be. And hopefully more fun for the fans too.
I know after seeing the Dead series, the originals, and now this new series, that I will be cremated after I die. Where do you stand on that issue?
I don't know, like Leguizamo says, it'd be nice to see how the other half lives.
It's been a long and winding road for George Romero and his Dead series, from night to dawn, to day, to land, to diary, and now to survival. Every horror fan has their favorites, and every horror fan owes it to themselves to check out this latest installment. See it.
This is George Romero, keeping cinema cool.
Do you see the Dead series going on indefinitely, or will George Romero ever put a bullet in its head?
In my head? I might put one in my head one day.